In 2017 I covered a small yet excellent roguelite called Monolith. From fast-paced action to its completely absorbing atmosphere to its well-designed gameplay and a ton of content, there wasn't a whole lot to complain. Not only was it one of the best roguelikes of the year, it remains in my eyes one of the best ever made. And today we're taking a look at Monolith's expansion, Relics of the Past. Monolith Relics of the Past is a DLC expansion for the 2017 roguelike shooter Monolith After the End. It is developed and published by indie developer Team D13. It released on Steam December 25th, 2019 for PC, Linux and Steam OS and is priced at €5.69. Monolith Relics of the Past not only introduces a whole array of new content, but adds in new mechanics that add an entirely new dimension to the base game, bringing it to a whole new level. It's an expansion that makes one of the best roguelikes ever made even better. In this review I will only be talking about the content that is found in the DLC. If you would like to know more about the base game, you can watch my review of it by clicking on the link found in the top right of the screen now. Relics of the Past adds in a whole bunch of new content to Monolith, including new rooms, new floors, new enemies, new bosses and mini-bosses, and new and modified weapons and much more, which we'll discuss throughout this review. Let's start with the new rooms and floors. More or less straight away upon starting a new run, you'll begin to notice some changes to the general layout of the floors. From time to time you'll find rooms with cracks in the walls that can be broken by using a bomb. These new rooms can contain anything from additional supplies such as health, ammo and a weapon, but can occasionally contain some of the new item types that are to be found in the expansion, which I'll get to shortly. Every once in a while however you may find an inactive device that can be activated if you want to. On other occasions you may find a monument that if destroyed will open a breach between worlds. The inactive device acts as a special mini-boss. The more damage you deal to the mini-boss before the timer runs out, the better reward you will get. Rewards include ammo, health, bombs and money. The green bar shown during this fight symbolises the time you've left, while the red bar shows your reward level. The deeper the floor you encounter this enemy, the more challenging it becomes, but that difficulty comes with better rewards. Much like with a lot of things with the expansion, this special mini-boss has a high risk, high reward nature to it. It's completely optional as to whether you activate it or not, and you need to sum up the risks versus the rewards as to whether it is worth it or not. It is always exciting to see one, but depending on your situation it isn't always wise to activate it, adding a layer of planning and strategy to the game. It is quite clever. Then there are the breaches. As previously mentioned, upon destroying a monument that is sometimes found on a floor, it will open a couple of breaches throughout that floor. Breach rooms are special rooms where upon entering, you're brought to a battle room of a different world and must defeat all the enemies in the room to get out. The catch to these special rooms is that you cannot bring any of your weapons with you except for your basic default weapon. Upon defeating all the enemies, you'll be presented with a small number of supplies, including health and ammo. Generally, destroying the monument will result in opening the breaches. However, on a rare occasion, it may have another effect that results in you letting a creature of horror into the world that acts as an additional boss that you need to defeat. So while destroying the monument can lead to more rewards, it can at times lead to an unexpected boss fight too, but which will happen is entirely random, leaving you to choose carefully if it's worth it or not. There is a completely new and secret floor to be found called the Temple. This floor is accessible by defeating a boss at the end of any of the first 4 floors, while having a multiplier of 2.5 or higher. Upon defeating the boss they will drop the usual choice of regaining health or increasing damage, but also drop a handheld game. Picking up this handheld game will transport you to the temple. In the temple you'll get to choose from one of 4 different paths to take, each with their own descriptions. Depending on the description, the path you take will change both environmentally and what enemies you will face. You will need to make several of these choices on a single path before facing off against a boss. What floor you pick up the handheld game on also changes how the temple works. If you pick it up on the first floor, you will only get to go down one path, while if you pick it up on the 4th floor, you will get to go down all 4 paths, each one containing a mini-boss of its own. The point of finding and entering the temple is that each mini-boss you defeat rewards you with a cartridge, one of the new power-ups added to the game, which I'll go into more detail on a bit later. The more paths you go down, the more cartridges you will obtain. However, upon completing all the paths, be it 1, 2, 3 or 4, you will need to defeat the main boss of the temple, the Warden, before being able to escape and return to reality. Much like with the workings of the temple itself, the boss fight with the Warden changes too depending on what floor you pick up the handheld game. The more paths you take, the more times you'll need to face the Warden in different forms. If you take only one path, you will only need to beat him once. Take 4 paths and you will need to take him on 4 times, with each occurrence having different attack patterns. If you survive and escape, you are rewarded with the cartridges you found along with the Warden's weapons. This is where the high risk high reward design in the DLC truly comes into play in its greatest form. The temple, like a lot of new mechanics and content, is completely optional, but the reward of powerful upgrades like cartridges are hard to resist. Are you willing to risk it all and attempt to get the 4 cartridges and face off the Warden in his full form, or will you take what you can get and only face him once or twice? The choice is yours, but the Warden is no pushover, resulting in a difficult fight to earn the power you gain. Finally is the brand new main game related floor called Nowhere. This floor is reached upon defeating the boss Unknown that was introduced in the After the End update. However, before it's possible to access this floor, you must first find a special cartridge that is found in the new previously mentioned rooms that are behind cracked walls. This cartridge can be on any of the floors and found behind any of the walls, so if you want access to it, you need to seek out the cartridge. This new floor acts just like any other and of course has its own unique environment, enemies and boss. Of course, these new floors and special rooms aren't all that is new in the sense of level design with Relics of the Past. There are over 2,000 new rooms for the level generation to choose from, so if like me and you have a ton of hours put into the base game, there's a load of new rooms and layouts to experience for veterans too. All these new room types and floors add a whole new way to play Monolith, as now there's a lot more to consider with the potential of there being a lot more rewards too. But with such great rewards comes great risk, and it is up to you to determine whether it is worth it or not. They bring the complexity of each playthrough to a whole new level, giving an already deep game even more depth. As for weapons, Relics of the Past doesn't bring any new weapon types to the table, but instead introduces 40 new variations of the base game weapons, including special legendary variations that are quite rare but extremely powerful. Weapons can also sometimes either be blessed or cursed. Blessed weapons gain certain bonuses such as increased damage. Cursed weapons on the other hand grant a variety of different disadvantages while they are equipped. Some are mild disadvantages like a decrease to damage or speed, others can be much more severe, such as losing hit points gradually over time. While equipped cursed weapons cannot be swapped out for another, the only means of getting rid of one is for it to break on its own through use, with there being no given condition for when this will happen. It is now possible to also find or buy keywords for weapons, with you often being able to choose one from several. The new keywords each add a new modifier to your equipped weapon that it previously didn't have, making it all the more powerful and work in different ways. While the expansion doesn't add any new base weapons, the 40 new variations more than make up for it. They introduce new ways of combating the many enemies in Monolith, while the addition of keywords add in new potential combinations for the player to try out. The blessings and curses on the weapon add a new spin on things, sometimes giving you that boost you needed, while in other instances you may have to pick up a cursed weapon with it being a case of desperate times, desperate measures. This in return adds entire new twists and turns to playthroughs that weren't previously there, bringing additional depth to the game. Cartridges are an entirely new power-up introduced in Relics of the Past. These power-ups can be obtained by purchasing in shops, found in cartridge chests, hidden in secret rooms, and of course by entering the temple. There are over 40 cartridges to be found, each one providing a different bonus of some kind. Some increase stats such as damage, others helping you finding secrets. A number of them only take effect if you have a multiplier higher than 2.5, and there are some more unique cartridges such as Dramatic Entrance, which can cause you to fire off a laser beam upon entering a room. The cartridges offer a whole new way to build yourself up and become more powerful as you progress in a playthrough, adding a whole new way to play compared to that of vanilla Monolith. Relics of the Past introduces a new playable character called Scully, a floating skull. Scully, like all characters in Monolith, changes up the gameplay in a particular way. In the case of this character, he can only use modular weapons, meaning he has weapons that can only fire at a slower rate and you need to reload, which takes a second or two. While Scully doesn't change up the gameplay dramatically, he is certainly a very different way to play the game. With how his weapons work, you need to adjust how you play to suit that character. Playing a playthrough with him is quite different in several ways, and is quite fun when you have had your fill with all the others. There is no shortage of new enemies with Relics of the Past. It isn't a case of these new enemies being found only in the temple or nowhere floors either. A very impressive new roster has been added for all the floors. These include new standard enemies along with nimbuses, which are mini bosses for those who may be unfamiliar with Monolith's workings, and even new end of floor bosses too. Nothing has been left out with this expansion. These new enemies across all the floors add in new challenges and surprises for everyone, giving something new to experience whether you're a newcomer or a returning player. They're all well designed, with them bringing just the right amount of challenge, all the while still fitting in with the Monolith universe. As crazy as some of the designs may be, they never feel out of place. They are fantastic. Another new introduction to the expansion is the mirror, which can be purchased from the shop. This mirror serves two purposes. The first is reports, the second is practice. Reports are where you can save all your statistics at the end of a run, be it completing a playthrough or when you die. These statistics include your weapons, cartridges, health, upgrades, score and more. I don't particularly understand or see a particular use or purpose of this mechanic myself. For those who like to keep the details and perhaps show their victories and defeats to their friends, it may be somewhat appealing. Other than that, however, it is a nice addition, even if it would only be of interest to a small few. The practice menu, however, is a whole different story, and is perfect and useful to all forms of players. This allows the player to go back and fight any of the bosses that they've previously beaten, allowing them to practice fighting them and learning their attack patterns to help with making the fight easier. You can battle both normal mode and hard mode variations of each of the bosses, but you will need to beat the hard mode versions of them before you can practice against them. This is a really useful mode for those bosses that you are having particularly hard time defeating. It allows you to practice against them, learn all of their attack patterns, and be more prepared and ready to avoid their attacks. It is a fantastic little addition. Another new addition is Blessings. Blessings have nothing in common with blessed weapons. They are completely separate. These are rare and hard to find bonuses that are found in secret rooms. If you happen to find such a room, you'll be given the choice to pick one of two different blessings. Like with most of the content with the expansion, the blessings add a new twist to a playthrough, granting additional advantages on the rare occasion that you do happen to find them. The final new addition is hacking. From time to time you'll come across a terminal with an item beside it. This terminal can be hacked at the cost of money. Upon hacking a terminal, you'll be brought to one of the several different types of minigames that you will have to complete within the given time. These minigames include having to block projectiles, choosing the smallest or largest number on display, and navigating a maze. If you succeed, the item will be upgraded. Fail and you'll lose one of your several attempts to upgrade the item. With each attempt, the price of hacking increases. The amount of attempts and the difficulty of the minigame is randomly generated and varies from terminal to terminal, but the more difficult the minigame is, the better the reward. There is an NPC that occasionally spawns at the starting room before you begin a run where you can practice your hacking skills. There is even an achievement for completing 20 hacking minigames in a row without failing. The hacking of the terminals adds yet another new way to get yourself bonuses and boosts, but with it costing money, there is a level of planning required where you need to determine whether it's worth the cost or if it would be best to hold on to your money for a shot. The hacking not only works from a gameplay standpoint of being an additional method of obtaining power-ups, but also gives a break from the usual form of play, even if it is a very temporary one, while keeping with the skill-based gameplay that Monolith is known for. All in all, it works brilliantly, adding to the game in more ways than one. As a whole, the new additions to Monolith are plentiful and all add to the game in their own unique little ways. Individually they don't make a huge impact, but together make a huge difference, all the while seamlessly being implemented where they don't detriment from the base experience at the same time. But it isn't just content that has been added to the game, but countless amounts of quality of life improvements also. So not only do you get an extremely generous helping of new content, you also get completely revamped gameplay too, that makes Monolith play better than ever before. One of the best roguelikes ever made has just gotten a whole lot better. I've played a lot of expansions and DLCs over the years. More often than not, they result in either just dully adding more of what is already in the game, or somewhere along the line something gets broken, be it new bugs or mechanics that were once balanced no longer being so. Very often, something goes wrong somewhere. But with Relics of the Past, that isn't the case at all. It not only improves on everything from the base game, but builds upon it, creating an experience that exceeds the brilliance that it already was. Everything is bigger and better while a whole bunch of flawless new content and mechanics are introduced at the same time. This is how a DLC should be done. This is how you make an expansion. And this is what all future DLCs should aspire to be. And with that, I'll give Monolith Relics of the Past a 10 out of 10. When it came to covering the base game of Monolith, I honestly couldn't think of how it could be improved on, and yet Team D13 have done it. They not only expanded Monolith, but brought it to a whole new level, all the while not breaking anything or having new content clashing with the old. It is nothing short of a triumph. If you're a fan of roguelikes that are in the style of The Binding of Isaac, Monolith and its DLC is an absolute must buy, and for a combined price of €13.68 for the two, it's well worth it. Buy it. You won't be disappointed.